Hello and welcome to Media Queen TV, our 2025 series. This is episode 3 for this year, and we have a very special guest with us, the amazing Darren Saul, and we're going to be chatting about 15 creative ways to monetize your podcast. My name is Aldwyn Altuney, of course. Great to have you with us wherever you're joining us from on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch. Welcome. We do like to make this show interactive. So if you have any questions or comments as we're going along, we would love to hear from you. And also where you're joining us in the world right now. Where are you in the world? Tristan Devaris, good to see you there on Instagram. Where are you joining us from right now? Now, a little bit about Darren before we chat with him. Now, he is a serial podcaster. He's a strategist, a trainer, a coach, a keynote speaker, and student of human attention. Now, years ago, he was burnt out and looking for new ways to market his recruitment and photography business. And then he discovered podcasting and he went all in, as he often does, and he has never looked back. And the results have been absolutely game-changing for him. Welcome to the show, Darren.
Thank you, Aldwyn. Nice to be back on the show. Love the show.
Great to have you here. Fantastic as always. And of course, you have your own show, which I'm going to be on Friday. Could you tell us about your show?
Yes, I've got a great podcast called Playing with Perspective, where we talk about all sorts of different topics, all sorts of different guests from Australia and abroad. And Aldwyn's going to be coming on the show for an hour or so to chat about how to make yourself marketable and stand out in this modern digital world.
Yes, absolutely. We'll be chatting about how to build a global brand and be in demand will be the topic on Friday afternoon. Now, there's all sorts of different formats that people do for their podcast. Now, right now, we're doing a live stream. We're doing this on StreamYard. So we're streaming out to about 10 different locations right now. And then this will later also be put onto Spotify or BitChute, Rumble, on other platforms as well. Now, others do a pre-recorded, etc. What's the format of your show?
Yeah, my show, I've done a bit of everything over the years, but I kind of have fallen into my pre-recorded rhythm. I seem to like the pre-recorded, so I can post-produce it if I need to. If there are any glitches technically, which there not always are, but it just gives me a bit more control. But there are no rules to podcasting, and I recommend people to do whatever they are comfortable with. And always remember that you can still post-produce anything that you do live and still launch it as a video and an audio podcast, so you get the best of both worlds, which I highly recommend.
Yes, and some people are definitely more comfortable doing it that way because they're maybe nervous about what they're going to say on a live stream, and they want to, make sure that, they don't say anything crazy or whatever. So some people feel comfortable sort of doing a pre-record, so it's not actually a live podcast. And some people do short ones, or some people do 10-minute shows. Some people do half-hour, 45-minute shows. I like to go deeper with my shows. Of course, we've got Media Queen TV. We've got thousands of interviews I've done over the years now, and Media Queen TV, we do 60 to 90-minute shows. Same with Total Truth Show, which is one of my co-hosted shows that I do with Ken Kleinberg, coming up to our 100th episode actually this week. Friday, we're going to have an epic show on Friday before actually our interview. We've got 8 guests coming on our show on Total Truth Show episode 100. We've had Media Mavens show I've done with a lady from Germany called Kirsten Linartz. We're looking to bring that back again in a few months. That's had a bit of a break with that show. And again, I like the 60 to 90 minutes. You can then chop up the show into shorter segments if you want to. What are you finding that's working really well at the moment with podcasting, as far as lengths go, as far as the style of podcast? Are you finding something's working better than others at the moment?
Yeah, you've kind of hit the nail on the head with 2 very important points. The first one is you can really do anything. The podcast, a lot of people think that there's a way that a podcast should be, but a podcast is your creative expression. It can be anything you want it to be. That's the beauty of the democratized world and the creative world that we live in now from a marketing point of view. So I know people that do 1-minute episodes every day. I know people that do 3 hours. I know people who do just audio, just video, just live. It just really is up to you. But I've noticed that probably that 30 to 40-minute mark is a really nice sweet spot, because when we think about the audience listening and viewing our podcast, they're going to be at the gym, on the treadmill, they're in the car on the way to work, they're walking the dog, they're doing their errands. Sometimes 30 to 40 minutes is a really nice time duration. Whereas if it's 2-3 hours, people are not going to give you that attention all at once as well. Like they might have to come back to it again later on, they might forget, etc., etc. So up to an hour is great, but I'd say 30 to 40 minutes seems to be a really nice sweet spot, and it allows you to go deep enough into the conversation with your guest. 10 minutes doesn't really get you anywhere, like you're really scraping the surface only. But with 30 to 40 minutes, you can really go deep and start really drawing out some great content. And the other thing that you mentioned is that you like to strip a lot of content from your show. And that is the most important thing about podcasting. I cannot stress this enough. For all the podcasters out there, the real gold of a podcast episode is what you do with it after you've recorded it, whether it's live or not. So amazing the reach that you get from the show, which is, and Aldwyn's got a huge reach, and this is fantastic. But then you can now take that recorded content in audio and video form, strip it, repurpose it into written content, audio content, short audio, short video, blog posts, articles, turn it into PDFs, presentations, whatever. There's so much content and gold for repurposing that will suit you and allow you to get in front of your audience and give value for the next 3 months. So that's the goal of a podcast, is really what you do with all the files. So I highly recommend that people think about that when they're on the podcasting bandwagon. Promote your show, do your show, but always remember to do something with your show after. Otherwise, you're wasting an opportunity.
Yes, the 100%. There is so much you can do with the content you produce from a podcast. And I know that the reels are performing really well. In fact, one of the best performing things is little podcast snippets that you can put on your social media. And of course, stories and reels have been huge on Instagram and Facebook. If you're not, using stories and reels, then you're missing out on a lot of reach, because if you use the new features of all the different social media platforms, such as currently we can add a note and we can add a song every 24 hours on our Facebook and Instagram as well. And when you do that, you're also getting more organic reach as well. So absolutely repurpose the content that you create, whether you're pre-recording or whether you're doing a live stream. And I can see here we've got Prasad Adelaide has joined us. Oahu boy, good to see you from Hawaii. We've got Morris, an Ageless Body Formula, has joined us. Now, Linda has a show called The Art of Listening Show, and she's interviewed me. I've interviewed her, and that's a beautiful thing, this exchange of interviews that happens too, because you could have the best show in the world, but if no one knows about it, what's the point? And so these beautiful collaborations that are happening where people interview each other, of course, if there's an alignment on your shows. And some people don't do an interview style show, they just do a straight speak about whatever they want to speak about directly and don't have guests on their show. But I actually love the guest model. I find it a lot of fun. I find it like having a chat over coffee or over a drink. And, there's all sorts of differences of opinion that happen as well. We've got Christy Adronicus here from LinkedIn. Good to see you. Now, she's saying we all need to talk about being war crime victims ongoing. It is severe, no time for anything else. Now, Christy, that's beautiful. I can hear the passion here about being war crime victims. Now, that would be a great topic for a podcast to talk about that. Okay, how is being a war crime victim affecting people? What does that mean exactly? Which war crime? There's so many wars going on at the moment around the world, right? We had the whole COVID thing that happened as well. That was like a whole war crime as well in itself, and people are still feeling the effects 5 years on from what happened during the whole pandemic, particularly those in Melbourne, like our beautiful Linda is. Hey, good to see you. She says hey all on Instagram. People in Melbourne, 262 days of down, I feel you guys, and those who've made it through that in Melbourne particularly, well done you. It shows your resilience, and it shows that, through the biggest challenges, that's when we get the most growth. And these are the kind of things we want to hear on our podcast. We want to hear people's challenges and how they've come through. And I'm fascinated that you've gone from photography to podcasting. Darren, could you share a little bit more about your story, particularly with the bit about being burnt out? So what was it that led to you being burnt out?
Yeah, perfect. So I I do a few different things. I've been working as a recruiter, an IT recruiter for over 25 years. And I've been a photographer for about 12 years or so now. And I noticed that at a certain point, probably about 7, 8 years ago, the way to develop business and find new clients, market your business, sell services was really changing. And people were getting much more savvy, it was getting much more saturated. It was harder to reach people. The traditional methods of marketing and sales weren't working. For example, putting an ad in the local paper, doing letter drops, cold calling, whatever. That kind of stuff had its day. It kind of had its use by date. And not to say that that stuff doesn't work. It still can work, but didn't work as well as it used to. So I thought, you know what? There's got to be a better way. And I stumbled into podcasting and I thought, wow, this is amazing. And it kind of opened my eyes to podcasting, but also to digital media and social media at the same time, because they're kind of connected in the promotion part of it. And I just, as I am, I'm very impulsive. I just dive in, start and see what happens. And I did that with both businesses. And I created 2 podcasts, one for my recruitment business, which is a smaller one that I still run now, but it's very specific to the industry. And then there's another one, which is my broader podcast, which I put under my photography brand called Playing with Perspective by Suspended Animation, which is my photography brand. And that's been so much fun. It's grown to over 250 episodes now. I've had amazing guests from all over the world, and I've got all sorts of great opportunities because of it. And that's been a lot of fun, to the point where I'm really teaching other people how to go on that journey and how to start utilizing podcasting for their business and get results using podcasting. So I call it podcast marketing. But yes, I'm so passionate about podcasting, as you can see. It was been a game changer for me, that whole journey. And it's just been a breath of fresh air. It's, to dive into a whole new genre.
And it's interesting, we met up on the Gold Coast recently. Darren's from Sydney, which is where I grew up as well. And it's interesting because you were saying that you're actually an introvert. And I found that really fascinating. So for the introverts out there, what do you say to them about putting yourself out there with a podcast?
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I call myself a social introvert. I'm very social, very good with people. But when I'm on for too long in public, I get quite drained. I have to go and recharge. So that's the definition of an introvert, is that when you're out in public, people don't recharge you. They actually take your energy, which is a good thing. Then you have to give yourself some time to recharge. And that's me. But what do I say to that effect for other people that are going to be podcasting is, again, you have to work with your own energy. You have to work with your own style. If you know that you burn out after 5 or 10 minutes, do a 5 or 10 minute podcast. If you know that you can go for 3 hours, go for your life. Do a panel for 3 hours. So work with your energy, work with your style, do a few parts if you have to. Just find a way that it's going to work for you. If you think that having a guest is going to help you balance that a little, do that. If you think that you're the type to explode information on your own, do a solo podcast. It's really up to you. So there's no excuse for shying away from podcasting and saying, oh, I'm an introvert, I'm an extrovert. There's too many podcasts out there. Who am I to say what I want to say? Who's going to listen to me, etc., etc. We've all heard all this stuff 100 times, 100,000 times before. And honestly, yes, the podcasting world is becoming more saturated, but you don't have to reach the whole world. You have to just reach your circle of influence, whoever or whichever group of people that is. If you're passionate about a particular topic or a particular idea, you know who your audience is going to be. You know who you can influence in a good way. That's all you need to have in terms of an audience. You don't have to have Joe Rogan's publication or Stephen Bartlett's publication where you have millions and millions of people looking at your podcast. So think about who you are, what you want to achieve, and just play with your own style and play with your own energy.
Yeah, I love that. And having that freedom around that too. It doesn't have to look a certain way. It doesn't have to be a certain way. Working with it's your creation, right? And being consistent with whatever you choose to do is so important. It blows me away when I look at the stats around podcasts. 2018 there were 500,000 podcasts. Last year there were 5 million. Now there's 6.5 million podcasts worldwide. I was just looking at some stats. However, do you know, out of those 6.5 million, how many do you think have more than 10 episodes, roughly?
Very few. Very few.
Right. Yeah,
Very
about 10%.
Past 10 episodes.
Yeah, 720,000 podcasts out of 6.5 million have more than 10 podcasts. Now, what's that telling you about, people having consistency, about people sticking with something until the end? A lot of people think we're going to chat about how to monetize your podcast today. And a lot of people think, I'm not getting results from my podcast, so I'm just going to stop it after like 3 podcasts, right? Well, you've got to be thinking the long game. This is organic marketing and it's sharing yourself. It's sharing your stories and sharing from the heart. That's what people really want. Now you can do podcasts now using AI. Like it's mind-blowing the kinds of stuff that's out there now. There's actually AI tools where you can actually have like a podcast that sounds like, it's AI people chatting with each other that sounds like it's real people. It's insane.
They might not look as good as us, but they're pretty good.
Yeah. And considering it's still the early days of AI, imagine what it's going to be like down the track. Now it's April Fool's Day today, and I've been looking at stuff on social media and I'm thinking, it's fantastic that, Trump has banned Roundup. It's now going to save the bees. And of course, it's April Fool's Day jokes. I'm reading all this stuff and I'm going, I'm so excited about all this news. And of course, sometimes we just don't know what to believe sometimes. Now, of course, April Fool's Day, you're going to see a lot more of this fake news out there, right? Than other times. But really, people are very discerning now. They don't know who to trust. And so building your profile, building your brand through having your own podcast is very, very powerful. And of course, if you can find ways to monetize it, even better, right? If you can do what you love and make money from it as well, then fantastic. And I think, one of the essential things that we want is, and actually Tony Robbins talks about this, is we want significance as human beings. It's one of the basic human needs is we want significance and we want contribution. We want to be able to, contribute, and we want certainty and uncertainty as well, which, podcast actually, it actually deals with a lot of that, having your own podcast. And so really with that, it's human nature to want to be seen, heard, and known. However, we've been shut down for a long time by authorities. And so we've lost a lot of confidence in putting ourselves out there, because you are going to get your haters, right? You're going to get your lovers and your haters no matter what you do. You've got them now anyway. You're going to get more of it the more you step up and speak up. You're going to get more lovers and more haters. So you do need to build that resilience as well if you're going to be putting yourself out there with this new media. And I call it new media because really, social media has only been around like 20 odd years. Facebook started in 2004, and now we have about half the world's population are active social media users. Now, back when I started in the media 41 years ago, things were very different. As you say, Darren, you'd get one story in your local paper 20 years ago and you'd be able to fill events up. Nowadays we have so much noise out there. So how to get the cut through with your show? What are some of your tips, Darren, how to get the cut through to be seen with your show? And I must say, congratulations, because your interview with me is going to be episode 255 of Playing with Perspective. 255. So you are someone who is very consistent with what you do, and you've also tweaked your show as you've gone along too, with the different ways that you market it. So what are your thoughts on that, Darren?
Yeah, good point. Really good point. So first I would say consistency, number one. You cannot go to the gym and think that you're going to have big biceps or big quads after 3 sessions. It takes work. It's a lot of dedication. There's a lot of thought that goes into it. It's exactly the same with the podcast. If you're going to start the podcasting journey, know that it's going to be a long journey, and you're going to grow and learn along the way. And that's almost the most beautiful benefit of it at all. It's going to take you on a journey of self-development. Everything else is even a second benefit. But of course, we want to get results, and I'm going to talk to you about how to monetize and get results from your podcast. But remember that consistency is very, very important. So you've got to be patient, you've got to be consistent, and you've got to know that it's something that you're going to get better at. You're going to harness different skills along the way. You're going to tweak things. And that's what I've done. If I go back to my first episode or my second episode, I think I did in the back courtyard of a cafe in Newtown, around Newtown, with a good friend of mine. The whole episode was 10 minutes because I ran out of questions after 10 minutes. And the sound was terrible. I had my phone in front of me. We were recording directly to a phone. It was terrible. It was dreadful, but it was still fun. I still have that episode up because it's nice to see the journey right back from
Yes.
episode 1 or 2. But the show's developed and evolved a lot since that time. And new tech has come along, AI tech has come along, all these workflow tools to make our life even easier. So that's the first thing. Be in it for the long haul and be open-minded to all the different tech and tools that are going to come your way. Second thing, in terms of being different and standing out. Well, I mean, I hate that word authentic because it's being absolutely hammered lately, but just be yourself. Be yourself. Don't try and be anybody else. Don't copy anybody's style. Certainly, as any artist, there's a great quote that says, steal like an artist, because all artists, we steal from other people, but we don't copy verbatim. We steal ideas, we get inspired, and then we turn them into our own. We make them our own. We put our own little signature on it. And that's what I recommend, is learn from other people, keep your eyes and ears open, but then start to put your little signature or your little spin on things. And it's always good to have a little bit of swagger. Like it's a great word, that swagger.
Yes.
Like your own show, you've got to have a bit of personality, a bit of swagger, a bit of something, whether that's verbal, visual, the way that you promote, the way that you write stuff, but like give it a bit of personality, give it a bit of something. Otherwise, it's just like every other podcast or every other promotional video out there. So try and give it a bit of swagger, but make it your own, make it who you are. Don't try and copy somebody else. And then the third point is promotion. And I'm very big on this. You could have the most amazing podcast, but if nobody knows it exists, what is the point? So you've got to do a lot of work in the pre-promotion like you do. Show's about to launch. Here it is. Create a thumbnail, invite people to the show, whatever. Launch the show, build some buzz, put some personality and swagger into it, and then post-promote the show well. Take the snippet videos, put them on all your channels, send them in your newsletters, take audio, video, written, graphic and photo content out of it. Really do a lot of work to promote the show and get people excited for the next one. So it's really a combination of lots of things, but those are 3 things that I would really take out: is personality, patience and commitment, and promotion.
Absolutely. They are fundamental pillars. I love that. So let's look at your process. I'm very curious with your process because I know you do a fair bit with this. And I love the fact, you've already been promoting the show for Friday. We've got images out there. And now, my team are now promoting it everywhere as well. So there's, it's going out to so many more areas than your show would normally go out to, because now we're sharing it to our audience as well. And that's a beautiful, exponential marketing capacity of doing a podcast with a guest who also has a big following, is that you're getting out to their audience. So what do you do? What's your process?
Yeah, so my process is, as you say, all my episodes pretty much are with guests, because I like talking to other people, and I don't want people just to be listening to my story all the time. Every now and again I'll do a solo episode about tech or about something, but most of the time it's with a guest. And that in itself is a massive promotional tool, as you just mentioned, because you get to reach a whole new audience. And if you do it well with a thumbnail, and all this stuff can be done really well and easily on Canva for free, and really good quality stuff. So invite your guests to share that around, tag you around their networks, build and build and build the community, build the buzz before you even get there. So I always promote before my show. I say, coming up this week or next week, Aldwyn is joining us. Here's her bio. This is what we're going to be talking about. Stay tuned. And I might promote that heavily for a week. And then I'll do the show. I'll get the show out probably within a week or two because my team's pretty good and they do things pretty fast. And then I'll post-promote the show another couple of weeks. Again, when I say post-promote, I mean take a lot of that content, repurpose it, and keep resharing it with different graphics, different videos, different photos to keep driving people back to the same episode. And then I will do that in continuum in the future. Every 3 to 6 months or even shorter than that, I'll come back to the same episode again. I might not actually have the number of the episode because I might have gone past that number, but I'll just put the title up. Say, how to build a masterclass following with Aldwyn Altuney. And I can bring your episode back 10 times in the next year or two. So I will keep bringing people back to the episodes, and it makes people, number one, rewatch the show and find the gold in the show. It also makes people think that I'm doing all these episodes, but it's really putting old episodes back up again. It's all the marketing game. And so that's the way that you have to think about things. You have to think about how can I create the perception that I am podcasting all the time. I know my stuff. You've got to listen. And that in turn builds trust, branding, and credibility for you and whatever it is that you do, which leads to business results.
Yes, I love that. And I'm often doing the same as far as leading people back to different shows. I'm chatting with someone about something and I'll say, oh, you should go check this show out. And that's the beautiful thing is we are leveraging ourselves when we do a show, and the content stays out there really forever, doesn't it? As long as the social media platforms are going. So which specific platforms do you go to, and what platform do you use to actually record the show?
Yeah, okay. So there's, from an audio point of view, and I always recommend people having an audio version of the show and a video version, which is because you're giving people options. A lot of times people still listen to your show, but it's good to give them a video option if they want to. So from an audio version, I love two platforms, but there are many. I like Spotify for Creators. It's changed its name a few times over the years, but it's called Spotify for Creators now. And the other one is Podbean. I love Podbean. But there's many others like Buzzsprout and name escapes me. There's so many, but those two are really good. And from a video point of view, you have to use YouTube because YouTube is the second largest search engine. So YouTube is not only a video housing platform, it's actually a search engine. So people can find you all the time in an evergreen way. Even in 5 years to come, people might just stumble onto an episode that I did 6 months ago. So that's the beauty about YouTube. So really, from a video point of view, YouTube is the way to go. From an audio point of view, go to Spotify for Creators or Podbean. And once you set those up the first time, you'll just set up the distribution. So then once you launch one episode, it will automatically distribute it to all the other platforms like Apple, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, etc., etc., etc. So you just do it once, and then boom, it's out there to the world in all the other platforms, as many as you like. So those are my two little tips from a tech housing point of view.
I like that. And Spotify used to be Anchor, of course. Some people will know, which it was very cool. And this is all free, which is great. Well, I think Podbean charges, but
Podbean's pretty cheap. It's like $50 a year.
Yeah, so for a very low cost, you can have your own media channel, really, your own media program. And it's phenomenal how big some of these programs are, like the Joe Rogans of the world. And, there's some massive podcasts out there with millions of followers. And these people are making huge impact. And we've had others that have been censored on YouTube as well. So yes, YouTube's great. They do censor some content. So be aware of that as well. Although, yeah, totally, YouTube is great for SEO or search engine optimization. And I often find when I Google myself that my YouTube videos come up on page 1. And of course, Google My Business is great for your business as well. So using the Google platform, you'll definitely get some more searches. You'll be more findable. You'll be more in demand because people will, they'll see your stuff out there. It'll give you more credibility. There's so many benefits of that. And which specific social media outlets do you then promote the show or pre-promote and post-promote the show? Which ones do you use?
Yeah, so me personally, I use LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and I also use my EDMs or my email campaign. I don't use Instagram as much. I use TikTok as well.
Yes.
I don't use Instagram as much. But again, there's no rules because it depends on where your audience is. If your audience is heavily on Instagram and TikTok, then that's where you're going to market. If your audience is not on LinkedIn, you don't need to go there. If it is, that's where you need to go. So think about where your audience actually lives and try and pick 2 or 3 platforms or social media platforms to really work heavily. And then you can add the others as you need to. And, I don't even work heavily on TikTok. I just throw the little snippet videos up there and it just does what it does. I don't even pay too much attention to it because most of my audience is Facebook and LinkedIn. But there are no rules really.
Yeah. And they're really the big ones, Facebook, LinkedIn's great for business, of course. Instagram, WhatsApp, Threads, and Facebook, of course, all owned by Meta. So that's the big giant.
I believe you can use links on Instagram now. They've changed something. So that's pretty cool.
Right. Yes. We've had links there. So yeah, that's great. And things are changing all the time with these platforms. And that's the thing is you don't have control over any of these social media platforms. And this is where it's also great to have links back to your website, etc., and have backup content of everything.
Now, put it in your own email marketing campaign because that way you are certain that your audience is going to see it because you're emailing.
Yes, emails are very powerful still, even though there's so many being sent out. People do still love emails often. So that is a great way to go. Hello, businessbubble.networking GC has joined us. Nadia loves chocolate. Yes, I love chocolate too. Very nice. See you there on Instagram. For those who've just joined us, let us know where in the world are you joining us from. And if you have any questions at all about podcasting or comments about what you're getting from our conversation, please let us know there. Now, 15 creative ways to monetize your podcast. Shall we get into the 15 ways now, Darren? I'm sure people are trying to find out.
Okay, so first of all, obviously, start your podcast. Once your podcast is reasonably established, but not even actually, just once you've got your head around the process and the workflow, you can start thinking about how to start monetizing your podcast. And in the old days, really you only had one choice. You had massive sponsorship and promotion that you got when you had a big enough audience. That was it. But nowadays, with the world that it is, the way it is now, the tech that's involved, the communities that we all belong to, there's a whole new way to start thinking about how to market great business, great money, or great revenue from your podcast. So I'm going to run through 15 points pretty quickly. I do a whole course and a whole webinar on this, but I'll kind of just give you little bits just to give you a bit of a starting point. So first of all, we've touched on the first one, which is the big one, and that's sponsorship and ads. So that's really more for when you have a big enough following and people want to come and sponsor and pay you to get to appear and put their products and services on your podcast, right? That's pretty logical. It's pretty straightforward. When you're big enough, you'll either find people or they'll find you, right? But let's say you're still building and you want to start finding a way to monetize and create some revenue for what you're doing because things cost money. Tools cost money. Time is money. There's lots of different tech that you're going to need and graphics and whatever. So you want to make some money. And I really believe as well, before I get into this, is that we're now at the point where podcasting is quite mature from a marketing concept point of view. And it's time for people to start using it and monetizing it. It's not just about let's get on each other's shows and have some fun and, we're not putting all this energy and money into it, but not getting anything back. So really powerful. I'm really passionate about people really starting to think about how to monetize their show, right? So first one, listener donations. We've all got a community that we've built over the years. Aldwyn's got a massive community. I'm sure that if you said to your community, guys, we love having you and working with you and serving you over the years. We don't charge you for anything for these podcasts, but if you wouldn't mind, here's a little link. Buy me a coffee, buy me a virtual coffee. Throw in $5 just if you like our podcast and you want us to keep going and giving you all this great content. Here's a little link. Give us a donation, whatever you think is value, just to allow us to keep going and say thank you. That's huge. So there's lots of great ways to do that. There's lots of great sites. There's one site called Buy Me a Coffee, a virtual coffee, and that's exactly what it does. Then there's another one that people have heard of probably called Patreon. That's an older one. And Patreon is it can be used as more of a subscription-based model as well, but there might be some ad hoc ways to do that. So you're basically just asking your listeners to throw in a little money, even if it's minimal, just to say thank you for all the work that you're doing. They will only be too happy to do that if you've given them so much value over the years. It's almost like they feel the need to give back. It's like there's the rule of reciprocity, right? So there's one. Number two, premium content. You might have a show. Aldwyn's got 3 shows, but she might have 1 show or 2 shows that are free and that build a lot of awareness for what you do. But you might say, you know what? My 3rd show is a paid show. If you want to come into my 3rd show, you've got to pay. Here's a subscription. It's $5 a month, $10 a month, whatever it is. But to get that content, you already know me because you've got my other 2 shows. You know my style and it's valuable. But if you want the 3rd one, you've got to pay. We're here to make money. So that's another way to do it. Other people do it in a similar way where they say, I'm going to launch my episodes early for those that want to pay, and the other people get it a bit later. And you can do that as well through Patreon or through your own subscription model or whatever. You can build all sorts of different things. So there's another way to think about things like that. There's also premium resources and premium content. You might say, great, this is my area of expertise, but you get a lot of stuff for free, but I can't give you everything in half an hour or 1 hour. If you want some great PDFs, if you want some great decks, if you want some great presentations or other resources, jump on my site. There they are. You can buy them. You can download them. Right? So you're trying to find a way to mirror the free with the paid. Right? So that's another way to do it. This is the way that I go about it, is I actually charge my guests to come on the show. And not everybody will say yes, of course. It's just depending on how much value they perceive they're going to get out of the show. But if they perceive the show to be valuable and they perceive the content and the recording to be valuable, as I mentioned, because it's the recording and the content that you're going to get out of it, that you're going to be able to use for your marketing, that's the power. If you have someone that is good at interviewing, good at conducting a professional podcast, having that content recorded is gold. And you pay your PR person, you pay your photographer, you pay your copywriter. Why don't you pay your podcaster? Exactly the same thing.
Yes.
Pay your videographer.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually do that too with Media Queen TV. We have a whole marketing package. Yep. So you're not just paying to, to be interviewed. You're actually paying for the whole package. You're paying for, and it costs us money to do that, right? We have a team that go out. We're paying our team to promote it. It costs us a lot of time and money, and you're reaching our audience, which is, something that you can't really put a value on because it's taken years and years to build that audience. I've got over 100,000 across all my socials, and they're close. We've got a good, strong community there.
Absolutely. And that's a great word that you just used, is you package and bundle things together. That's another great way to monetize this. Always think about how to bundle. I can give you this, plus this, plus this, and the sum of 3 is way more valuable than just each one on its own. So how do I create a bundle that's just so irresistible? You've got to pay me for it. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, like I sometimes do a media strategy session. We do special banner images. We do, so there's a whole lot in there. Yeah, it's not just a simple interview. And there's podcasts and there's podcasts. Sure. There's those that are established. There are those that have the credibility, and there are those that are just starting that, will interview anyone just to get off the ground. And, wherever you're at, you've got to start somewhere, right? So
you've got to start, earning your stripes. You've got to earn your keep. You've got to build your following. You've got to get better. And then you can start charging, or you can, you've got to be realistic as well. You can't start charging, $500 if you've never done an episode.
And I have noticed, interestingly, with podcasts that there used to be a lot more just audio, and I'm finding more and more now people are doing the audio and the video. You mentioned that earlier, advising that, and some people say, "Oh, I have a face for radio," and and they don't like to put their face out there. However, when you do, it's even more powerful. When you do have that video content, very, very powerful to build trust and influence and exposure.
100%. I really agree. And any questions? I thought just take a quick break. Just if there are any questions for us to answer along the way.
Yeah, any questions? I can't see questions right now, but guys, if you have any questions on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, wherever you're tuning in right now, Twitch, etc., let us know in the comments. Tag one of us as well, ideally. I will see some of your comments should pop up here. So if you have any, let us know any questions or comments about anything that we have covered so far. As they come through, I will share them if they come through before the end of the show. I know a lot of people watch the replay of this show, and then people sometimes come in and go out and come back and watch the rest because it is a longer show. So wherever you're at, we really thank you for tuning in and hope that you're getting some great value from this so far. I know I certainly am. We never learn less. And Darren is an absolute champion. We actually are both leaders on the BX online networking event. We do the Tuesday 9 a.m. Event, or Sydney 9 a.m. Event online. So for our BX networkers out there, we might see you on a Tuesday event. And we've been doing that for quite a few years too. So their relationships are very, very important. Building relationships over the long term, whether you're in BX or BNI or any of the other networking groups out there, I think networking is a very, very important way to not just find guests, but to build relationships over time in business, in life, to share stories, share your wisdom. I love the fact that every single show we're leaving a legacy as well for someone, which is a beautiful thing.
I love it, indeed. Awesome. But anyway, if any questions, please let us know, and we'll answer those as we go. But I'll go through some more for you, just so make sure.
Yes, more ways to monetize your podcast.
Excellent. So look, there's another one. Easy merchandise. People might think, oh, well, I could wear a cap with my logo on it. I could create a T-shirt. I could create a microphone pop filter with some fun caricature or some funny color or some logo. Like you could have a water bottle. And that kind of takes me to visual merchandising, because that's the new one, is that I might not actually have to, excuse me, have a sponsor, but I could have someone that's a silent collaborator that just allows me to put their promotional material in physical form in my frame. So I could have a table and just have a water bottle with a brand on it. And that person is like a silent partner, silent promoter, and you might get some sponsorship dollars or some revenue from that. It's a kind of an interesting way or indirect way to sponsor. It's just by leaving their brand in there. So again, it's got to be in line with your show and it's got to make sense. But there's another way to do things. Like there's always, if you think outside the box, there's always ways to monetize and create partnerships. Affiliate marketing is another one.
Yes.
Everybody knows about affiliate marketing. You can do all sorts of great deals with other marketing professionals out there to drive people to your show, and to give those people something back in return. You can do all sorts of creative deals about how to get more eyeballs and eyeballs onto your show and into your world, thereby creating revenue and they're creating business opportunities. So affiliate marketing is another one. There's another fun one that's happening a lot more these days, is live events. Particularly after COVID, everybody loves to get out there. We all love to connect with each other, see each other in the flesh, have a few drinks, coffee, go to a conference. You can actually build a whole roadshow live around your podcast. You could say, great, guys, I'm doing an Australian tour. We're going to be in these places and these dates. Come and join us at this venue as a guest. Watch the show, do some live Q&A with us while you're sitting down in your seat. You're going to be learning a lot. And then as well, at the show, what are you going to do? You're going to sell your merchandise. You're going to sell some of your premium resources. You're going to sell other things. You're going to put your little thing up for donations. You're going to charge guests to actually register. So there's all these ways now we're putting that together. We're bundling different ways to monetize into one massive campaign, which could be a live event campaign, right? People love that because it's like going to see a conference or going to see a concert, going to see a live band, whatever it is. Now you're actually going to see conversation where you're going to learn something, just like when people used to pay to go see Oprah Winfrey.
Mm.
You know, same thing. Or Ellen
Yeah.
DeGeneres, Jerry Springer, or whoever it was. You know?
Yes, and they'd have heaps of giveaways, wouldn't they? People used to love the giveaways and great guests that they'd get on the show, and they'd make it really fun. And yeah, it was always a surprise what was going to happen.
Just thinking out loud, you could have a music spot, someone could do an interlude and bring your friend and come and do a show. And, you know, if they're a piano player or a guitar player, they could come and do a spot. You could collaborate in that way as well. You could co-promote that way. So there's so many ways to think laterally around promotion. If you just take away that mindset of just thinking, oh, I need people to sponsor.
Yeah, I love that. And people want to connect in person nowadays. We've done so much online through COVID, and there's nothing quite like meeting in person. Plus, you know, you minimize your screen time, right? How much screen time are we all putting in nowadays? You know, I know my eyesight started to go a little bit because of all the screen time that I've been doing.
My glasses are getting bigger.
Yeah, getting thicker.
Absolutely. So yes, that's another really good one. Live events and working out how you can create a whole buzz around your podcast and everything attached to it via a live event campaign. That's awesome. Now you can do really easy things like just things off the back of what you talk about and your area of expertise. You can sell online courses and workshops on the back of what you do. So that's what I do. So I do lots of work to sell online courses, both in person, group, and digitally recorded off the back of my podcast. So if people, they know about me, they can go and learn more about podcasting just by jumping on my website and checking it all out. So you can start selling your services and bundling your services to make revenue, but your podcast is the trigger or the spearhead to promote the fact that you do that in the first place. So that's huge, right? Think about things from an indirect point of view, right?
Yes.
Books and ebooks, same thing. I could start selling a book. One of my dreams is actually to create a fun book about every episode of my podcast. I'm going to do a book one day with, 300 episodes. What have I learned? Just one little piece of gold from every episode with a funny caricature and a quote or something. And it could almost be like a children's book. It's really simple to read. It's something fun. And you could do that as well. And you could sell that as well. And nowadays, with the AI technology out there, you can create books and get people to help you to do this stuff really easily, right? Ghost illustrators and whatever, right? So there's another one. I forgot the number already, but now I think number 10, consulting and coaching. Another way to do it. Again, you're indirectly creating awareness for what you do and how good you are at what you do and what your philosophy is around what you do, that people will want to come to you to learn more and actually engage your services because they trust you. If you are a podcaster, well, let's say this. Let's say you're a lawyer. There are two lawyers. And one lawyer has a podcast. And they've given a lot of information, really given people an insight into how they think and how they deal with situations. And one person stumbles onto both. Which one are they going to engage? Probably 9 times out of 10, the one that has the podcast, because they can learn, listen, they can get more insight. And they go, well, I already know this person, whereas the other person is an unknown entity.
Yeah.
So just a massive branding tool to strengthen what it is that you do. The other one is community memberships. As we mentioned earlier, it's all about community now. It's all about how can you influence your community and your circle of influence, your target audience. And community memberships is great. You can create all sorts of fun events, online workshops, online Q&As, panel discussions, training, all through a community membership for $10 a week, $10 a month. That again has a knock-on effect with regards to everything else you do from a marketing and a business point of view. So there's another one. All right. I thought I'd stop there for a quick second. Any questions at all coming up? No one?
Yes, any questions, guys? If you have questions, pop them in the chat. I can see a lot of people joined us, but we haven't got that many comments or questions at this stage. So they're obviously so intrigued in the comments. Holly Wolf AU has just joined us on Instagram. Good to see you there. And on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch. What are you guys thinking? What are you learning? Any questions at all for Darren? Please pop them in the chat, or for myself, around podcasting, how to monetize your podcast. I love all these suggestions, Darren. It's so fantastic to think of all the creative ways you can monetize your podcast. You know, who's to say that you can't, you know, love what you do and make money from it as well? I mean, I think that is the ideal thing. That is the goal, is to love what you do and to actually be rewarded for it financially.
Yep. And again, you don't have to have a massive following or wait 5 years to start monetizing. You can start monetizing straight off the bat, but you've got to do it in a creative way. Think about, what do I have to offer? And how can I package up a few things to actually create some revenue to allow me to keep delivering these great podcasts, make them sound a bit more professional, allow me to continue promoting them, giving more value back to the community, right? And it all just builds organically, naturally from there, right? Really powerful.
Yeah, and you definitely don't need to have an OnlyFans site to do this. Now, you don't have to take your clothes off or anything like that. Although some people are making incredible amounts of money in OnlyFans by taking their clothes off and doing all sorts of things, particularly the younger ones out there. So, you know,
I took my shirt off on OnlyFans and they banned my profile.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of Showtime in a different respect. But there you go. You know, sex sells, right? Sex sells. But you definitely don't need to do this with what we're talking about here. There are many ways you can monetize what you're doing without selling your body or, you know, anything else that's you know, a bit out there. Although I must say, it's kind of like safe sex, I guess, if they do it through the screen. If it's online, it's not, you know, it is a safe way. You can social distance at the same time. It's, you know, I guess
that's true. Very true.
Ryan, good to see you there. Ryan Thistleton has joined us on Instagram. We're chatting about ways to monetize your podcast. And if you don't have a podcast, consider starting a podcast or getting on other people's shows. There's so many opportunities to be a guest on other people's shows too. And that's another way you can monetize, is actually by promoting your products and services through somebody else's podcast. Although you don't want to be salesy in your approach. You really want to come at it as you're giving lots of great value with what you're offering on the podcast. You're sharing your wisdom. And remember, there's going to be people that love you and hate you. There's going to be people that love and hate the podcast. It doesn't matter. It's about you sharing your knowledge, sharing from the heart, having fun with what you're doing, and building up that resilience so that these things don't shake you when you get your haters out there. You know, thank goodness on social media, you can report comments, you can block people, you can delete comments, all those kind of things if people are being nasty. And I always say, you know, be kind. It doesn't take much to be kind. And we know that hurt people as well, right? Hurt people. So just send them love, right? You don't have to, you know, hang out with these people. Send them love and be kind. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others. And that is crucial when it comes to putting yourself out in a podcast. When it comes to actually gaining exposure, to being seen, heard, and known, you've got to have a certain amount of self-confidence, not being egotistical or arrogant, but actually have enough self-confidence and self-love and self-nurturing to be able to share from the heart, to share what's going on for you. And this is where a lot of people are really challenged by, you know, public speaking is one of the biggest fears people have out there, is actually getting out and speaking, whether it's on a podcast or any other way, or putting yourself on camera and doing a visual, or what they call a vodcast, a video podcast. And as you say, you know, from one video, you can then extract the audio, you can extract the content, create so many different types of content from that. It's a brilliant content marketing strategy to do podcasts, and a lot of fun.
It really is a lot of fun. And again, as you said, don't worry. You've got to have people that love you and people that don't love you. Just ignore the comments, the negative comments. Continue, get on with it. Don't worry about it. And you're going to be the one laughing at the end of the day, because you've put in the work, you've been patient, you've been consistent, and you're going to get the results that you want. And you're going to look back and you say, wow. Like if you look back and you say, why didn't I? That's the worst thing that you can have.
Exactly. And that's one of the biggest regrets is, living a life not true to yourself, and living with regrets by not actually sharing of yourself, sharing your story, leaving a legacy through whatever media you choose to get out there with. Of course, we are very blessed now that we have so many options, so many tools to be able to do podcasts or vodcasts. And, some people use Zoom to do an interview, and they repurpose from Zoom. So you don't have to have the Podbeans or StreamYard. StreamYard have just doubled their prices. So they've really, that's been very interesting. They've added a whole lot of extra features and things. But, these are the things we can't control. If we're using other people's platforms, then, we're at their mercy as far as they change their pricing, they change their structure, they change, what they're allowing or not allowing on their platforms. And this is where you need to be able to ebb and flow with the changing times that we're in. With all this AI content coming out, well, what we're definitely noticing is people want that heart-to-heart connection. They don't know what's real anymore, not just because it's April Fool's Day today. They just don't know what the truth is anymore. And you sharing your truth and sharing your stories, that's what's going to really resonate and connect with people.
100%. I think it's really important to know that. And you just got to be flexible. You've got to be malleable. Always know that if there's one product that's doing something that you're not liking, there's always another one right next door that's just as good or not better, and it's cheaper, or it's free, or it's just a matter of getting your head around certain tech. It's not hard, and once you've done it for a little while, it's all really easy. It's like riding a bike, right? Really easy.
Yeah, everything is hard until it becomes easy is one of my favorite quotes. And another one is inch by inch, everything's a cinch. Inch by inch.
I like that. I like that. Very good. Love it. Well, I thought I'd give everybody my last 3 or 4, just so they can complete their list of 15.
Beautiful.
So, guys, remember, interviewing prospects is another one. And as Aldwyn and I mentioned earlier, that reciprocal arrangement where you interview, you might not make money out of it directly, but you will make a lot of money, possibly indirectly, because of the co-promotion and the reach. So think about things always in a direct and an indirect way when you're coming to monetization. That was more to do with getting on other people's podcasts. But the one big one from a sales point of view is interviewing prospects or potential customers. So this is a really incredible strategy for people that are really looking to access one particular client or one particular collaborator. If these days it's getting harder and harder to connect with people and actually get in front of people. People don't answer your calls, they won't answer your emails, they won't answer your Facebook messages, emails, whatever. So all of a sudden, if you can say, look, it's Darren here from the Playing with Perspective podcast. Can you just leave a message for Jenny that I want to have her on my show next week, and she can give me a buzz on this number? I guarantee you within 10 minutes, that phone is going to ring. Whereas you might have taken 6 months to get a call with Jenny. So you've got to think about this as a long-term strategy where you start interviewing the prospects or the collaborators that you want to work with, but then through that process, you'll build a relationship and they will ask you, oh, Darren, what is it that you do again? Yeah, maybe we can work together. Let's have a meeting. Let's have a coffee. And see how it's a very subtle business development strategy. And this works well. And I know a lot of podcasters do this purely as a marketing strategy, as a business development strategy, is they podcast with other people and then they subtly bring in a conversation that's a bit of a salesy script to kind of work out if they might be a potential prospect for their business. And I see this all the time. So it's very clever. And it's like podcasting has become an incredible business development tool, but in a very subtle, indirect way. So that's a really big one.
Yes, that's a beautiful one. And I know JT Fox does this a lot with his podcast. He strategically approaches people that he wants to do business with and then often does do business with them. And it's a great way to build that relationship and build authority with them as well. And credibility and trust and all those things. And of course, when people have trust and they like you, they're going to most likely want to do business with you. So he's just one that comes to mind. He's a multi-millionaire who specifically does podcasts for that reason, and no doubt for reach as well, etc. But yeah, great way to position yourself and to get the cut through to actually be able to reach people you can strategically work with.
Yeah, absolutely. Because just think, if everybody's trying to find the same person to sell their services or their products, but you say, no, I'm not selling you anything, I'm just going to invite you on my podcast. You've just bypassed that whole channel, and you've come at things from a totally different way. So again, we're thinking very laterally here. That's brilliant. The last few, keynote speaking, for example, when you do more podcasting, people are going to ask you to speak about whatever it is that you do. You're becoming an authority in your area, of expertise. People are going to see you as that go-to person. So they're going to ask you to come and speak at their free event, their paid event, their workshop, their online event, their summit, whatever it is. And it happens all the time. So the more you stay in the game and you don't give up, the more these opportunities will come up. And then you can start charging for them and say, sure, this is my speaking fee. This is my call out fee, whatever it is. So there's all sorts of things you can do. And then the last one is kind of the obvious one, but I'll leave that one to the end. Number 15, the more you do all these things that we're just talking about, the more you build your brand and your trust and your credibility, and that leads to business. Everybody knows that. That's like business marketing 101. So all these things together will lead to more trust and credibility, which will lead to more opportunity and business. Simple as that. So there's 15 great ways to monetize, where it's indirect and direct, thinking laterally, thinking outside the box about how you can start monetizing straight off the bat. And you don't have to build a massive following like Joe Rogan or what's the other guy, Tim Ferriss or Stephen Bartlett, whatever. And these guys are all fantastic podcasters, but you can get a little bit of slice along the way if you think cleverly about it.
Alex Jones is another one comes to mind. Yeah, brilliant. Look, I love that so much, Darren. I'm going to give you the clap right now. Yay, 15. Awesome. Love it. I'll give you the clap. Give you the clap. It's safe. It's all safe and effective. It's for your safety too, by the way. So I love that. That's awesome. So many great tips and strategies there on ways you can monetize your podcast. Love it, love it, love it. And with 6.5 million podcasts out there, my friends, there's no excuses not to put yourself out there to share your story. And you don't have to know everything about your topic to share. If you know 10% more than someone else about something, you can share about that. And no one has your story. Your X factor is your story, right? So whatever, challenges you've overcome, there'll be a story there about how you've overcome those challenges, how you've come to the other side. What is the wisdom that you've learned through the challenges that you've had through your life? And I do believe everything happens for us, not to us. And rather than being the victim of your circumstance, look at how you can use it as an opportunity for growth, because we will keep attracting the same kinds of challenges until we get it. This is why people often attract the same kinds of partners and, all that kind of stuff, right? Is you just notice what you're attracting into your life right now. Notice how you're feeling right now. Are you in victim mode? Are you, what are the conversations in your head right now? Do you feel maybe you're not good enough? And these are the three biggest fears people have, is that they're not good enough, they're not valued or not loved, and they're not worthy. And they don't belong, right? Don't belong, not loved, and not worthy. They're the biggest fears people have. So if you've got one of those things going on for you, then it's very common and it's okay. And just start somewhere, I recommend. If you want to build your profile, build your brand, build your trust, help to share your story, share some wisdom, have some fun with it. If you're not confident as a speaker, then get some help. There's lots of mentors out there. Reach out. I do media consultations. I help people with their speaking and with podcasts. And so does Darren. Darren's got a fantastic course, in fact, and a challenge that he will share with us shortly. But before we get to how people can work with you, Darren, what are some of your thoughts about the way that podcasting is going in the future now with the AI world that we have? What do you think is going to happen more so? What are your predictions for the future of podcasting?
Yeah, it's really interesting because, as you said, there's all these great tools and technology out there now that I can type in a couple of lines of prompt and it will put a whole podcast together with two people discussing exactly that in detail. and I wasn't even there, and they're learning without me. But I think, I mean, who knows? There might be a time when that's just what everybody's going to be doing. But I still think that people still, as you say, they want to connect with other people, real people, and they want to get those little insights and subtleties from the human being that could be relevant to them, which might not always be caught by something that's generated by AI. So that's why personality and swagger is so important. You've got to make it your own so people get drawn to you, because you are the only thing that differentiates you from everybody else, especially if there's AI involved. So you've really got to double down on you, and that's really the key. But in the future, who knows? I mean, only time will tell.
Yes, I think more so too. I know you don't like the word authenticity, but speaking from the heart, sharing from the heart, so sharing your stories, because that's the thing. AI can't make up your stories. It's not. It's AI is not having the human experience that we're having, and it's through this big emotional roller coaster ride that we go on through life, where we have the ups and the downs and rounds, and the whole journey that we go on. That's where the gold is, and that's where I believe people are going to be looking more for that. They're going to be looking for people who do share authentically, who do share from the heart, who do share what's on their mind and what their opinions are about what's going on in the world as well. We want some healthy debate, healthy debate about all sorts of different topics, and being kind to each other always. So important, because, treat others as you want to be treated. I believe, if you're being nasty to others, you're most likely being nasty to yourself. As they say, hurt people, and healed people heal people. So I also recommend do the personal development involved at the heart of, helping to have you be more magnetic, to attract more people into your life, to make a bigger difference in the world with what you're doing. Do the inner work, do the personal development work, do whatever it takes to build your confidence and to get that you are amazing. You do have a great story to share. And perhaps it's time that you stepped up and had a go and put your hand up for a podcast, and at least start to be a guest on other people's podcasts, maybe before you start your own show. Or if you have a show right now, how could you tweak your show? How could you bring in some of these monetizing strategies? There's always more we can do, isn't there, Darren?
Big time. Always more we can add, and just learn and be inspired by other people, and just take one or two things and make them your own, and then your creative juices will flow, and it's amazing what you'll create.
Yeah, I love that, Darren. Oh, this has been an awesome show. We have had Darren on some of our previous shows as well over the years, and it's always fantastic chatting with you, Darren. I love hanging out with you, and what you do is awesome, and I'm so looking forward to being interviewed on your podcast on Friday. So keep an eye on that. Friday.
On the show, absolutely. And
yes,
all about episode 255.
55.
Aldwyn's area of expertise, how to get and be known.
Yes, how to build a global brand and be in demand. That's what we're going to be chatting about, and we're going to have a whole lot of fun, and no doubt I will share from the heart, as I always do. And who knows what's going to come out of my mouth. I often don't know exactly what I'm going to say on any podcast. And that's the thing too, like, just notice if you're getting a lot in your head around this, if you're overthinking, what am I going to say on the show, or what, don't overthink things, right? Just be natural, just be yourself. We're having a chat right now, like we're having a chat over coffee, right? We're bringing people into our world. And, this is the thing too, is you never know who you're going to reach with your shows. Now, I've had multiple times, I have gone out Gold Coast, Brisbane, Sunshine Coast, and complete strangers have come up to me and said, "Oh, you're Aldwyn, aren't you? I've been following you on your, social media for years. I've been seeing your shows. I love what you do," which has been awesome, right? I haven't had anyone come up and throw tomatoes at me yet, which is fantastic. However, who knows, you're going to get your haters as well, no doubt. I have more the keyboard warriors nowadays, that if I get any haters, they're usually the keyboard warriors. But it's amazing who you impact, who you can inspire through your shows. And just be committed, not attached. I would recommend be committed, not attached with what you're putting out there. Be committed to consistently putting out great content, to sharing people's stories, sharing your own journey of what's happening. And and what will be from that. And this is where it's always great to get feedback. And I do invite you, everyone who's joined us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch. We are putting this on Spotify as well after the show. We're going to be sharing it across TikTok and X and other platforms, as well as BitChute, Rumble. It'll be all over the place. And you definitely don't need to do that much marketing with your podcast, because the sky is the limit as well with how many places you can go out with your podcast to. So that could be very overwhelming for some people, right? And as you say, 2 or 3 platforms, just pick some platforms, just start somewhere. You can always do more with it later. I mean, I'm in the media marketing game, so obviously I'm going to be practicing what I preach, and I'm going to be, getting it out all over the place. And, I really, really appreciate all the viewers and listeners we've had over the years that have supported the show. I know we get our regulars that religiously watch every single show. I have people actually messaging me saying, I haven't seen the whole show yet, but I'm going to come back and watch the whole show, and things like that, because we do longer shows too. We do 60 to 90 minutes here usually. And, not everyone sort of sits there and watches or listens for that long in one go. However, if it's a topic they're really interested in, they will come back and they will tune in. Any final tips for people, Darren, who might be even thinking about starting their own podcast, or maybe if they've got a podcast, any other ideas on how they can be consistent with their podcast, any other ideas on monetizing, or tips in general?
Yeah, I would say you kind of touched on it a few times during the conversation as well, is that there are a lot of people out there that are kind of on the fence and they'd like to start a podcast, but they're not quite sure if they should or if they want to. So my advice is always get on as many shows as you can. It's a bit of a practice run. Do a little road show, a little period of 1 to 2 months where you're trying to get on loads of different shows. You're going to strengthen your muscle. You're going to get better. And then you've always got amazing marketing content ready to then use and extract and market your own business and your own services or products. And then you can take an educated decision as to whether you really like it and you think that you've got the energy and the longevity to be committed for the long haul and make the show work. So that's a nice little tip, is to just get on other people's shows to start with, get a feel for the podcasting world, see if you like the game, and you might start really falling in love with it. And before you know it, we'll create another serial podcaster.
I think that's a great tip. And, I have a lot of speakers, authors, coaches in my community. And so they're already experts in certain fields. But what I would also recommend and add to that is actually put yourself forward for podcasts, even if it's not about the topic that you normally talk about. So, for example, I was invited to be a co-host for Tech Webcast. Now, Tech Webcast was an audio podcast that we actually did for 3 years, or I was a co-host for 3 years, but the show actually went for 8 years. It had over 1 million downloads in 8 years. And I had 2 co-hosts from Melbourne and 1 co-host from America who I never met. Yeah. Right. We did this amazing show. And I am definitely not a tech expert in any way whatsoever. Right. And there I was co-hosting a show about technology. And the guests that we had on the show, they would talk about things like what kind of apps they're using, what kind of computers they're using. Like, they definitely were not all tech experts. There were people discussing how tech was working in their life. We even did shows about vinyl, and this is the beautiful thing. Like notice if you're stopping yourself, thinking to yourself, oh, I don't know enough about that topic to talk about that topic. If you know something about that topic, you can definitely put yourself forward as a guest for other people's shows.
That's right.
And the other thing I would say too, a lot of people get stuck if they're thinking of starting their own podcast. They get stuck in what's the podcast? What sort of show should I do? How long should I do the show for? What platforms should I be using for the show? And this is where you actually teach people about all this kind of stuff, Darren. But also I would recommend here, don't let perfection get in the way of progress. You can always tweak things as you go along. It doesn't have to be the one and only show that you stick with for the rest of your life. In fact, all the shows that I've done, I have tweaked over time. We've tweaked our images, we've tweaked our wording, we constantly tweaking things, right? So notice if you've got some perfectionism there, which does lead to stagnation, or if you've got analysis paralysis going on and you're thinking about it, oh yeah, I'd like to do that one day, maybe someday when I get time. Well, what'll happen is another 5 years will go past and you still won't have started it because you're constantly putting things off. So you do need to put a plan in place, get an action plan in place for when you're going to start your show, and just get out there and get started. Of course, get informed and get empowered as well is a great idea. And maybe that's a nice segue now for your podcast challenge, Darren, or anything else you want to add to what I've just shared there as well.
Yeah, beautiful. Love it. Perfect segue. So
Yeah.
yes, Aldwyn is perfectly correct in that get a little bit of information, learn a bit about what it might take, but don't get paralyzed by all the tech and information, and don't let it overwhelm you to the point of you just saying, oh, this is all too hard, forget it. Rather learn nothing and just start, because then at least you'll learn slowly as you go and you won't be scared off. But if you do want to learn a bit about podcasting, I keep it really simple. And I've got a 7-day free challenge that you can subscribe to. And every day you're going to get loads of great content from a tech point of view, from a mindset point of view, from a podcasting marketing point of view, just to give you some ideas and to teach you a little bit about what the podcasting roadmap looks like, and get you ready to launch when you finally decide to do that. So Aldwyn will pop the link in. Feel free to jump on. It's free. And there's amazing content that you can learn and you just educate yourself on the whole podcasting.
Yeah, I love that. And you have a course that's only $27 as well, which is insane. Could you share a bit about that as well, Darren, please?
Yes. So if anybody's gone to the next stage, and you'll actually learn about the course through the challenge, but if you are at the next point and you think, oh my God, I'm ready to start, Darren, you've convinced me, Aldwyn, you've convinced me after this 1-day session, I'm running a special bundle of 3 different courses: a beginner's course, a more 4-part serious course, and a monetization course. All 3 courses together for about $29, all video based. And you can jump on and get the bundle and some other benefits that come along with it. It's an absolute steal, no brainer. And we'll pop those links in as well.
And that's Australian dollars too, right?
Australian dollars. So 29 Australian dollars for the Americans out there. That's like nothing.
It's about $20 maybe, right? Which is awesome. And of course, then you buy these things, and it's a matter of putting the time into your calendar and actually watching them and absorbing the content. But yeah, that's amazing. Great value there. So we'll pop that up there again for you. So for our audio listeners, go to subscribepage.io/free7, the number 7 day podcast challenge. And you'll find the link there, or just look up Darren Saul. I'm sure you'll find it that way as well.
So you'll find me.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Any other wisdom you'd like to share around podcasting, monetizing podcasts, or words of encouragement for people?
I would just say there's always so many people that jump on all these sessions, and they're always interested in learning stuff. And even a lot of people that join my challenge, I can just feel that they're interested, they're learning, they want to, but there's something holding them back, and they just never take the next step. So my strategy is, stop procrastinating, take the next step, test the waters, even if it's just getting on other people's shows, and you won't regret it. The worst thing is that you go another 5 years and you say, why didn't I start? Because now there's AI podcasts and I'm irrelevant. So start now before it's too late. Don't waste any more time.
Yeah, absolutely. Life is so precious. And 1/3 of people die by the age of 65. 1/3 of the population. I know the older I get, I just see people dropping off left, right, and center. It's horrible to witness. And it reminds you how short life is, really. And you look at eternity, and our life is over like that, right? It's a snapshot. And life can be over just like that. So there's no time like the present to actually start to put yourself out there. I love that, Darren. And any quotes or motto that you'd like to share with us? Favorite quotes or motto?
Yeah, one of my absolute all-time favorites is a great quote by a lady called Beverly Sills. And I don't even know who it is, but I just read this once, and it's all over my marketing material and all over my computer because I love it. And it says, let me just think, Beverly Sills, there are no shortcuts to any place worth going.
I like that.
Love that quote because it's so true.
That's beautiful. Yeah, there are no shortcuts to any place worth going. Love that. Beautiful. There's another quote just came to mind as you were sharing that, and it is, great challenges are not given to small souls.
Yeah.
Great challenges are not given to small souls. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah,
Absolutely love that. Thank you, Darren. It's been amazing. And for those who want to connect with me, hop along to linktr.ee/Aldwyn. That's linktr.ee/Aldwyn. You will find all of my social media links there. You'll find some free media resources on my website. You can hop along there. Also, every month we have a free global good news challenge where you can share gratitude and good news. And this will not only lift your energy, it'll lift the energy of people around you, and you'll be helping to decrease depression and suicide rates, which is something close to my heart, having had depression myself, having had 4 friends take their own lives by the age of 45. It's something I'm very passionate about, shifting the way we do news and sharing more inspiring news, more gratitude. Now, when you're grateful, you're not depressed, right? So the more we can get into gratitude, the more peaceful we're going to be, the more enlightened we're going to be, the more we're going to have a greater experience of life. So Global Good News Challenge, all the details are pinned to the top of the Facebook page. And we have a 4-day challenge currently for April, which you can start anytime within April. Actually, our American friends, it's still March, so you can start your 3-day March challenge now, because you can start anytime within the month, and the challenge goes for as many days as whatever number month it is. So March is the 3-day challenge. It's 3 days in a row of doing a live video on any social media platform of your choice, and all you do is you share your name, what you do, 3 things you're grateful for minimum, and 1 piece of good news minimum, right? And very, very simple. Most people do it in 1 to 3 minutes, and you will feel an immediate shift in your energy after you share publicly what you're grateful for and what your good news is for the day. If you want to see examples, there's plenty out there. We've had heaps of Global Good News Crusaders over the last, 5 years now, coming on to 5 years. We started this in June 2020, every single month since June 2020, actually during COVID, because I was seeing all the negativity. I wanted to shift it with COVID, and that's where it stems. So thanks to COVID, thanks to that, we've had this good news challenge going, which has been awesome. Also, I am doing a book at the moment called Fear to Freedom, Conscious Creators Manifesting Magic. And we have 2 spots left at the moment for co-authors to come into the book. So if you're looking for a co-author book opportunity with Leanne Clune and myself, it's an awesome opportunity. We are looking to have this book out by the end of June, and we're starting our training on Thursday. So 2 spots left for that. Just send a message to me with freedom in the comment, or put a comment here wherever you're tuning in. Just put freedom, and we'll chat with you about what we're offering with that. It's going to be awesome. Fear to Freedom, how we transform from fear to having freedom in our life, and lots of other great content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. You'll see it looks like that. Aldwyn Altuney Media Queen TV. I'd love you to subscribe there and check out all of our other inspiring content. And another quote I want to leave you with here is, one of my favorites is by Margaret Mead. And it's, a small group of thoughtful people can change the world. In fact, it's the only thing that ever has. A group of thoughtful people, right? So if there's something you're passionate about that you want to help change in the world. So for example, I've done 18 years of animal action events, right? I'm very passionate about helping to raise awareness and appreciation and respect for all animals. And it's a great way to change the world for animals when you share about it and when you encourage people to take action for animals. We had, of course, earlier on for those who missed this, that came on late, Christy Adronicus came on earlier talking about war crime victims, right? She's obviously very passionate about that. What are you passionate about? Those tuning in live or on the replay, what are you passionate about? Let us know in the comments. What are you passionate about? What do you want to see change in the world? Because the fact is, if you don't do anything about it, who will do something about it, right? And everything we do, the smallest actions can have a ripple effect of change. So what do you want to shift in the world? What is it for you? Love to hear from you. Darren, any final comments?
I would just like to say thank you for listening. Aldwyn, thanks for having me on the show. Everybody, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you learned something. I hope it inspired you. And I definitely would recommend you learning more about getting out there and on your podcast and seeing where it will take you. So just want to say thank you. Good luck. And any questions, of course, feel free to reach out to myself or.
Yes, beautiful. Thank you, Darren. It's been so cool to have you on your show. Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us here on Media Queen TV. It's a big clap for all of us and for you. Thank you for joining us. We will see you again on Media Queen TV very soon. Make sure you stay connected and let us know, what did you get out of this show? Let us know in the comments. And if you have any questions after the show too, if you're watching the replay, pop the questions in, tag us, and we can come back to your questions as well there. And please share the love. If you think someone will benefit from this, please share the love. We'll see you again next time here on Media Queen TV. Thanks again, Darren. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.